Today we're doing lesson 11.5, choosing a data display. Now, we have done a couple different types of data displays this week. And remember, that's just very simply taking a list of numbers and displaying them in a way other than just a list. All right, so there's two different data displays that we've done this week. Does anybody remember what they are? Histograms are one. All right, histograms are one. And what was the other one? No, two-way tables isn't necessarily a data display. We did a box and a whisker plot. All right, a box and a whisker plot. Now, what are some other data displays that you've learned in the past? Stem and leaf. Very good. Stem and leaf. What else?
Bar graph.
A bar graph, which is very, very similar to a histogram. All right. A line graph.
A pie graph.
All right. Well, pie graphs, circle graphs. Okay. Anybody else? So, before you can choose a data display, you got to know what kind of data you have. All right? Do you have a bunch of numbers? Do you have just information? So, what we're going to focus on today is not so much the data displays as what is the difference between the different types of data you could put on a display. So if you get a really good job one day and your boss is like, I want you to go find out all this data and then I want you to bring me back what you find. If you walk in with a bunch of numbers or a bunch of facts, your boss isn't going to be very impressed, right? But if you walk in with this awesome data display that he can look really quickly and see exactly what you found out, then you're going to be in really good shape, all right? So how can you display data in a way that helps you make decisions? So there are two types of data that you could collect and need to display. You have qualitative data, which is categorical, and you have quantitative. Now, those words are very, very similar, and we're going to talk about a very small difference that's going to help you here in just a minute. But your qualitative data consists of labels or non-numerical entries that can be separated into different categories. So I want you to take your highlighter, and I want you to highlight labels, and I want you to highlight non-numerical, because that's really, really important. If something is not even a number, then you know without a doubt it's qualitative. But what if you have a number and you're just not sure? Is this qualitative or is this quantitative? Well, here's something I'm giving you that's going to help you, and I want you to highlight this as well. If adding or if finding a mean makes no sense to you, so if you're looking at data and you ask yourself the question, can I find an average? Can I find a mean? And you say, no, that doesn't really make sense with what information I have. Then you are looking at qualitative data. Okay? So highlight that. If you will focus on that question, if you will ask yourself that question every single time, this is going to be a piece of cake. All right? The best displays for qualitative data would be bar graphs, circle graphs, and histograms, because you don't have to have numbers to make those types of displays. So qualitative data would be best on these types of data displays. Now, quantitative data, it consists of numbers that represent count or measurement. So I want you to highlight the word numbers in this definition. You say, how can I remember quantitative is numbers, qualitative is not? Well, what is pretty much the only letter difference between qualitative and quantitative? There's an N in quantitative, right? And I know this seems silly, but you've got an N in qualitative. Let that remind you, in quantitative, let that remind you about numbers. Quantitative data are numbers. Now, also on the flip side, if adding or finding a mean makes no sense, and that's qualitative, then adding or finding a mean makes sense when it's quantitative, okay? So that's why I'm saying, if you'll just keep asking yourself that question, okay, can I find the average? Does it make sense for me to find the average? Then you're going to really quickly be able to tell me if it's qualitative or quantitative. Now, if your data is a bunch of numbers, here are your best data displays. The box and whisker plot we learned this week. The stem and leaf plot you learned back in 7th grade. Line graphs, all right? These are good data displays if your data is quantitative. Example number 1, it says tell whether the data is qualitative or quantitative and explain. So let's see what you guys came up with. Letter A, how many of you said, by show of hands, that telephone numbers in a directory were qualitative? All right, put your hands down. How many of you said they were quantitative? You did both? Put your hand up for both. All right, here's the question. Can you find the average of telephone numbers?
Yeah, no.
No, you cannot. All right, that doesn't make any sense. You could sit there and add up all these numbers, but it doesn't make any sense to find the average of telephone numbers. So this one absolutely was qualitative. Now, you needed to give me an explanation, and there's a couple different ways that you could have done that. What did you guys say for your explanation? Cam?
I put adding or finding mean makes no sense.
Okay, perfect. Finding the mean makes no sense. You could even shorten that a little bit more and just say you can't find the mean. All right, either of those answers are totally fine. You can't find the mean. And we're going to give more than one answer today in our notes, so that way you know that there's more than one way. But this one's qualitative because you can't find the mean of phone numbers. All right, letter B, the ages of patients at a hospital. Quantitative, raise your hand. All right, hands down, qualitative. Good. Can you find the average of ages? Yes, so that definitely makes this one quantitative. All right, now what's your explanation?
Can find mean.
Able to find the mean and a numerical sum.
Very good. Either of those works, okay? You can find the mean. Okay, you can find the mean, you can find the average, or ages are numerical. Either of those I would take. But this is definitely quantitative data. Now, what about C? Links of videos on a website. Quantitative or qualitative?
Quantitative.
All right, there's some debate here. All right, think about it. Video links, you've got a minute and a half, you've got 30 seconds, you've got 5 minutes and 22 seconds. Are you able to take all those seconds and find an average?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. So that makes this quantitative. Very good. And what would be the best explanation? One that I haven't written up here yet. It's quantitative because lengths are numbers. All right, so put this one, again, once it's you and you're on your own, I don't care, but I do want you to have more than one option in your notes. So you can tell me that you can find an average. I see up here that that did not come out right. I have no idea what I was writing there. Okay, so you can tell me that you can find the average. You can tell me lengths or numbers. There's a couple different ways you can tell me why you picked quantitative. Now, last but not least, this one should have been like 2 seconds flat. Types of flowers at a florist. What is it? Qualitative. These aren't even numbers. Okay, flowers are not numbers. So this one is absolutely qualitative. And what is a perfect explanation for this? Flowers aren't numbers. Beautiful. That's it. That's all we're going to cover and all we're going to do for 11.5.